Hello students, today we will study about electrostatic potential energy, a topic from chapter number 2. So let's start it. Electrostatic potential energy. The electrostatic potential energy of a system of point charges is the work needed to bring the charges from an infinite separation to their final positions. When we are bringing charges from infinity to a particular point, the system of those charges, it possesses some energy, and that energy is known as what? Electrostatic potential energy. Now how to understand it and how to calculate its expression, let's discuss that. Okay. Now suppose Q charge is there and another charge Q0 is brought from infinity to a particular point A, which is at x distance from Q. So when we are bringing this charge towards Q is having its own electric field, and because of this electric field, this charge Q0 will experience some force. It will experience force of repulsion. So when we are bringing it closer to Q, we have to do some work against that force. So the work done by us in bringing a charge from infinity to a particular point is stored in terms of potential energy, and that potential energy is known as what? Electrostatic potential energy. So now what we will do, we will calculate its formula, how to derive its formula, that only we are doing. So charge Q0 is there, and suppose we are bringing it from infinity to A. So now it is at point A, suppose. Now suppose one more point is there, point B, and these 2 points A and B, they are at distance dx, suppose. So now if we are moving Q0 charge from A to B, we will do some work. So let that work be dw. And how much work we have to do? Minus F, minus F dx. Why minus sign is there? Because we know this thing, work done is dot product of force and displacement, that is F ds cos theta. Here theta is 180 degree because force is in this direction and we are moving the charge in this direction. So theta is equals to 180 degree and cos 180 degree is minus 1. So finally what we have, dw is equals to minus F dx. And what is F? F is K Q Q0 upon x square, where K is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. So now in place of F, we will write this. So finally we'll have dw equals to minus K Q Q0 upon x square dx. Okay, so this is the small work done in moving the charge from Q0 to point B. Okay, but suppose we want to calculate that how much work is done in bringing a charge from infinity to a particular point P, which is at r distance from this charge Q. So now what we have calculated, we have calculated the small work done in bringing the charge from A to B, which are separated by dx distance. So small work done we have calculated. Now if we want to calculate the total work done in bringing the charge from infinity to a particular point P, which is at r distance from Q, what we will do, we will integrate it. And what will be the limits of integration? It will be from infinity to r. So I think this thing is clear. So now what we will do, we will integrate it. One second. So now we will integrate it. So finally we'll have w is equals to integration K Q Q0 upon x square dx, and minus sign is also there. And limit of integration will be infinity, infinity to r. Okay, now we know this thing. Minus k q naught will be out of integration. So finally we'll have minus k q naught integration x to the power minus 2 dx. If you will take this x square in numerator, it will become, the power will become negative, so you'll have this. Okay, now I think we know that how to integrate. X to the power n dx is x to the power n plus 1 upon n plus 1. So w will be equals to minus k q naught, and its integration will be x to the power minus 1 upon minus 1, and limits are infinity to r. Okay, now this minus and this minus will get cancelled. So finally we'll have k q naught x to the power minus 1 could be written as 1 upon x. And if we will substitute the limits, so it will be upper limit minus lower limit, so it will be 1 upon r minus 1 upon infinity. One second. Now we know this thing, what is 1 upon infinity? 1 upon infinity is 0. So finally what will be the work done? Work done will be equals to k q naught upon r. And I've already told you the work done in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to a particular point P is stored in terms of potential energy. So this work done could be written equals to what? U. So what is U? U is electrostatic potential energy, and its expression is how much? K q 0 upon r. So I hope this expression, that U is equals to k q 0 upon r is clear. So if we talk about a system of two charges, so what is the potential energy, electrostatic potential energy of this system which has two charges? It is how much? U is equals to k q 0 upon r, where q0 is brought from infinity to this point, and this q0 is in the field of q, and no work is done in bringing q because q was already there. Okay, so this is the electrostatic potential energy which we have calculated for the system of two charges. Now we know this thing, U is equals to k q upon r q0. Simply I have written these three. So U is equals to k q upon r q0. If we talk about k q upon r, what is k q upon r? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q upon r. It is the potential at this point due to this charge q. And what is q0? q0 is that charge which is brought from infinity in the electric field of charge q. So there is some relation. So now what is that relation? So the same expression we can write in this way, which I'm going to tell you now. We can write U equals to potential due to q into charge, one second, into q0. Simply I'll write because I'm not able to write properly. So what does it mean? U is equals to, what is the electrostatic potential energy? Potential due to q, potential which is produced due to q which was already there, into the product of that charge which is brought from infinity to that particular point. I think this is clear. So it means what we can write, U is equals to V into q0. So what is potential energy? It is the potential at a point due to a charge which was already there into another charge which is brought from infinity to that particular point. So there is a relation that U is equals to V into Q0. This is very important for you people to understand, that U is equals to V into Q0. Like suppose if I talk about the next page. In next page we can clearly see, again they are talking about a system of two charges. So what it is written over here, that Q1 is already there. Okay, P is a point which is at R distance, and at this point P, what is the potential due to this Q1 charge? It is V1. So V1 is the electric potential due to Q1 at some point P. Now what we are doing, another charge we have considered Q2, which is brought from infinity to this particular point P. So what will be the work done? The work required to bring Q2 from infinity to point P without acceleration will be Q2 into V1, which we have already seen. That what will be the work done? It will be whatever is the potential at this particular point into the product of that charge which is brought from infinity to this point. And this work done will be equal to the potential energy of two particle system. So if I'll ask you that what is the electrostatic potential energy of this system which has two charges Q1 and Q2, and if at this point, if V1 is the potential due to Q1, then what is the electrostatic potential energy? So simply what we will do, we will say that potential energy will be equals to V1 into Q2 or Q2 into V1. That only we have discussed in our previous page. So directly, very easily we can write that the potential energy U of this system which has two charges Q1 and Q2 will be V1 into Q2. So what is V1 over here? V1 is the potential at this point due to this charge which was already there into the charge which is brought from infinity to this point. So this is how easily we can write the electrostatic potential energy of a system of two charges. I hope this thing is clear. Now suppose there is a system of three charges. Now you can easily see over here three charges are there, Q1, Q2, Q3. The distance between Q1 and Q2 is R12. The distance between Q1 and Q3 is R13. And the distance between Q2 and Q3 is R23. And now what we are supposed to calculate? We are supposed to calculate what? The electrostatic potential energy of this system which has three charges. We have already discussed that what is the electrostatic potential energy of a system of two charges. Like suppose if we talk about these two charges Q1 and Q2. So Q1 and Q2 are the two charges, and we already know that what is the electrostatic potential energy for a system of two charges. So directly what we can write, that the electrostatic potential energy of these two charges is K Q1 Q2 upon R12. This we have already derived. Now suppose now the third charge is brought into the picture. Now Q3 is the charge which is brought at this point. So now what we will do, how we will calculate it? So now what we will do, at this particular point there will be the potential due to this charge and there will be potential due to this charge. So at this point there will be total potential because of these two charges. So how we can write it down? See, this we have already finished because it is what? It is the electrostatic potential energy of a system of these two charges. Now we will talk about the third charge. Okay, now at this point what will be the electrostatic potential due to Q1 when Q3 is brought here? So now the thing is that if we talk about the potential of Q1 at this point, what it will be? It will be K Q1 upon R13. So that only we have written K Q1 upon R13. So this is the potential at this point due to Q1 charge into which charge is brought? Q3. So that's why Q3 is written over here, because we have already discussed what is U. U is V into Q. So potential at this point, which point? Potential at this point into the charge which is brought at this point. Okay, so this second expression we have written for Q1. Now we will talk about Q2. Now what is the potential at this point due to Q2 charge? We know the formula, K Q2 upon R23 into which charge is brought at this particular point, Q3. So finally we have this. I think this step is clear. U is equals to U12 plus U13 plus U23. What does it mean? U12 is the electrostatic potential energy of a system of these two charges. Then we have discussed about Q1 and Q3. That's why U13 is written here. Then we have discussed about Q2 and Q3. That's why U23 is written over here. So I think this step is clear. Now from this particular step, we can easily see that K is common. So that's why K is taken out. And in bracket you have this. So this is the electrostatic potential energy for a system of 3 charges. Similarly, we can write electrostatic potential energy of a system of 4 charges or n number of charges. If you know this, I hope this topic is clear to everyone. Like if we talk about this, it is also a system of 3 charges, Q1, Q2 and Q3. Distance between Q1 and Q2 is R12. Distance between Q2 and Q3 is R23. And distance between Q1 and Q3 is how much? R13. Now again, if I'll ask you that what is the electrostatic potential energy of this system which has 3 charges, the expression will be like this. So initially we can talk about these 2 charges. Electrostatic potential energy will be K Q1 Q2 upon R12. Then we will talk about Q1 and Q3. So the expression will be K Q1 Q3 upon R13. And if we talk about these 2 charges, the expression will be K Q2 Q3 upon R23. K could be taken as common. So that's why 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is out of brackets. And finally what we have written, electrostatic potential energy of a system of 3 charges. Okay. Now we have a numerical based on electrostatic potential energy. So we can clearly see that 3 charges are there, Q1, Q2, Q3. They are separated by equal distance, that is d. Now one more thing they have given us the value of these charges, where Q1 is plus Q, Q2 is minus 4Q and Q3 is what? Plus 2Q. And the question is, what is the electric potential energy of the assembly of these charges? So we have already discussed that what is the electrostatic potential of a system of 3 charges. So that only is written over here, that U is the electrostatic potential energy, and what it will be U12 plus U13 plus U23. Okay, expression we have already derived, that U is equals to K Q1 Q2. I don't think that I am supposed to write it again. Okay, let me write it down then. So it will be U equals to K Q1 Q2 upon D. I am writing because what is the distance between them? D, plus K Q1 Q3 upon D plus K Q2 Q3 upon D. I think this step is clear. Now K upon D could be taken as common, or simply K also you can take out as common. So finally we'll have this. Now this is Q1. Okay. Now simply what they have done, they have simply substituted the values. Actually in this equation they have given us the value of Q1 is plus Q, value of Q2 is minus 4Q, and the value of Q3 is plus 2Q. So in place of Q1, Q2, Q3, their values are substituted, and when you will solve it, finally you will have what? Minus K 10Q square upon D. So this is the electrostatic potential energy for a system of 3 charges, and I hope this is clear. Next topic is the potential energy of a dipole, of an electric dipole. We have already discussed that an electric dipole is there, it is placed in a uniform electric field. Then and 2 charges are there, this is positive, this is negative, which are separated by s distance. Dipole moment is there, which is making an angle phi with the electric field. This positive charge will experience force in this direction, this negative charge will experience force in this direction. So equal and opposite forces will be there, then torque will act on this dipole and which will try to rotate this electric dipole along the direction of the electric field. We have already discussed. Okay, and we have also calculated that how much torque will act on it. So how much torque will act on it? It will be tau is equals to PE sine theta, and here we will say phi because phi is the angle. So expression we already know that tau is equals to PE sine phi. Okay, then if we are doing some work, if the work is done, or I should say if we want to rotate this dipole by some small angle d phi against this torque, then what I'm supposed to do? I have to do some work against this torque. Okay, so and how much will be the work? The work will be tau into d phi. So I can write dw is equals to tau d phi. I think this is clear. Or minus sign also we can include because we are doing the work against the torque. So minus sign could also be included. So this is the small work done in rotating the dipole through some angle d phi. Now if I want to calculate the total work done in rotating this electric dipole from phi 1 to or phi I to phi f, it means I need to integrate it. So that's why if we integrate this, we will have this step. So dw will be w equals to minus, and in place of tau we are supposed to write what PE sine phi, and PE will be out of integration. So finally we'll have what phi I to phi f sine phi d phi. So when we will solve it, when we will simplify it, so finally what we will have, it will be PE cos phi f minus PE cos phi I. Okay, so this is the work done in rotating an electric dipole from phi I to phi f. Now this work done is stored in terms of in form of potential energy in this dipole, and that is known as what electric potential energy of the system, and it will be U is equals to minus W. I think this thing is clear. Now suppose if phi I is equals to 90 degree, it means what? Initially electric dipole is perpendicular to an electric field and then we are rotating it through some angle phi. So in that case what will happen? Your phi I will become 90 degree, cos 90 will become 0, this term will vanish, and your phi f will become what? Simplify. So finally we'll have this. So this is the electric potential energy of an electric dipole which is placed in an electric field, and how much it is? U is equals to minus PE cos phi, which could be written as what? Minus P dot E, which is the dot product of dipole moment and electric field. So I think this thing is clear, that how to calculate potential energy of an electric dipole which is placed in an electric field. Next topic is behavior of conductors in the electrostatic field. We very well know that what is a conductor. A conductor means it has free electrons which can move from one point to another in that conductor. Okay, so what is the first property? It says that the net electric field intensity in the interior of a conductor is 0. A conductor is there which is placed in an external electric field. This is positively charged, this is negatively charged. So an electric field will set up and the direction will be in this direction. So this is the external electric field E0. Now when this conductor, if it is placed in this electric field, what will happen? As it is positively charged, the negative electrons, the negative charge or electrons will be attracted towards it. So this side negative charge will get induced and this side positive charge will get induced. So inside the conductor again one more electric field is there, EP, which will be in this direction. So one external electric field E0 is in this direction, EP is in this direction. So the net electric field will become what? 0, because they are opposite in nature. The charge will keep on moving from I should say that the charge will keep on moving until unless EP will becomes equals to E0, and when it will become equals to E0, what will happen? The net electric field inside the conductor will be 0. So this is the first property which says that the net electric field intensity in the interior of a conductor is 0. No electric field is there inside the conductor if it is placed in an external electric field. So that's why it is written over here. When a conductor is placed in an electrostatic field, the charges, that is free electrons, they drift towards the positive plate leaving the positive core behind. At an equilibrium condition, the electric field due to the polarization becomes equal to the applied field. So the net electrostatic field inside the conductor is 0. I hope this property is clear. Next property is electric field just outside the charged conductor is perpendicular to the surface of the conductor. It means whenever we are talking about a conductor, the electric field will always be normal. It will always make 90-degree angle on the surface of the conductor. Now how to justify this thing? So now suppose the electric field is acting at an angle other than 90 degrees. Suppose consider this case that electric field is not normal. It is making an angle theta with the surface of this conductor. Now we know this thing, electric field is what? Vector quantity, and we need to resolve it. So when we will resolve it, we will have E cos theta acting along the tangent at this point to the surface of the conductor. So now what will happen if this E cos theta is there and a component of electric field? What it will do? It will try to accelerate the charge on the surface of the conductor. And what will happen? Then there will be surface current. But when we talk about electrostatic, we don't talk about surface current. It means what? Whatever we have assumed that this electric field is making an angle theta other than 90 degree, that is wrong. So what we can say that electric field is always normal to the surface of the conductor. Theta is always equals to what? 90 degree. And cos 90 is how much? 0. Okay, so that's why it is written over here that suppose the electric field is acting at an angle other than 90 degree, then there will be a component E cos theta acting along the tangent at that particular point to the surface, which will tend to accelerate the charge on the surface, leads to surface current. But there is no surface current in electrostatic. It means theta is equals to 90 degree and cos 90 is 0. So then there will be no such component, and then we will not talk about surface current, and that's it. So simply we have to remember the second property, that on the surface of the conductor, electric field is always normal. Okay, next property says that net charge in the interior of a conductor is 0. A conductor is there, and if it is placed in an external electric field, the charges are distributed in this manner. This side negative charge will get induced, this charge positive charge will get induced. So the net charge inside the conductor will become what? 0. As it is written over here, the charges are temporarily separated. The total charge of the system is 0. Since E is equals to 0 in the interior of the conductor, therefore Q is equals to 0. We know this thing. What we know? We know this thing that phi equals to E dot ds. A dot is there, I'm not able to put it. Okay. And which is again equals to what? Q upon epsilon naught according to Gauss law, which we have already discussed. I have to put an integral, close integral. Okay. So this is what flux, which is equals to E ds cos theta is equals to Q upon epsilon naught. Now we have already discussed that E inside the conductor is 0. So if E is 0, phi will be 0, and if phi will be 0, Q will also be 0. So that's why the net charge in the interior of a conductor is 0. I hope things are clear. Next we have charge always resides on the surface of a conductor. It means what? Whenever a charge is given to a conductor, it will distribute itself on the surface of the conductor. A diagram is there. A conductor is here. You can easily see. This charge is given to this conductor. Now you will see what will happen. As the charge is given to the conductor, the whole charge will get distributed on the surface of the conductor. And Q is equals to 0 inside the conductor, which we have already discussed in the previous property, which says that the net charge of the conductor is 0. One second. So since E is equals to 0 in the interior of the conductor, therefore Q is equals to 0 inside the conductor. The moral of the story is, we have already seen that E is equals to 0. We have also discussed that Q is equals to 0 inside the conductor. And whenever charge is given to a conductor, the whole charge gets distributed on its surface. The whole charge resides on the surface of the conductor. One more reason we can give, that being a conductor, We know this thing, a conductor is there, charge can easily move. So when charge can easily move, because what will happen inside the conductor, they will experience force of repulsion because of each other. So because of force of repulsion, they just want to separate themselves from each other, and then it becomes easy for them to resides on the surface of the conductor. When it comes to an insulator, in insulator you will not see this type of picture, because in insulator charges cannot move. They have to be static at whatever position we have given the charge to an insulator. But in conductor, they resides on the surface of the conductor. No charge is there inside the conductor. I hope this property is also clear. Next we have, not this property, one property will come here. Electric potential is constant for the entire conductor. Now how we can say that? Again, we have discussed one thing, that E is equals to, what is E? It is negative gradient of potential. Electric field is negative potential gradient. Okay, now we have already discussed that inside the conductor E is 0, and if E is 0, what will be V? V will be constant. So I hope this thing is clear from this particular formula, that is E is equals to minus dV upon dr. One second. So we know this thing, dV is equals to minus E dot dr, or E is equals to minus dV upon dr. So E is equals to 0, it means what? dV is equals to 0 or V is equals to constant. So electric potential is constant for the entire conductor. So this was fifth property, and the last property is this: surface charge distribution may be different at different points. Here we have a conductor. Now here surface charge density is maximum, here surface charge density is less. Why is it so? Because of the surface area. At this point we can see this, it is pointed, and if it is pointed, it means what? Area will be very, very less. Area will be less, and if area will be less, surface charge density will be more. So that's why at this pointed area, surface charge density will be more. But if we talk about this particular area, okay, surface area is more, and if surface area is more, surface charge density will be less, because they are inversely proportional to each other. So that's why if you have different types of distribution, or if you have different types of areas, so as per the area, the surface charge density will also change. So that's why it is written over here, surface charge distribution may be different at different points. And I think whatever is written over here is clear, that every conductor is an equipotential volume rather than just an equipotential surface, because here we'll talk about 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional. So I think the behavior of conductor when it is placed in an